So GCS, the Glasgow Coma Scale, has 3 components. We'll start off by the eyes. So eyes, the score is composed of between 1 to 4. Four means your eyes are open spontaneously. 3 means your eyes open to voice. 2 means your eyes open to pain. And 1 means your eyes do not open. So at the moment we can see that Andrew's eyes are not open, so he can't score a 4. But if I ask him to open his eyes, let's see what happens. Hi Andrew, my name is Moise, I'm the doctors. Can you please open your eyes? So he's opening his eyes, so that gives him an eye score of 3. However, if he was to not open his eyes, I could apply a painful stimulus in the form of a trapezius squeeze, for example. Andrew, can you open your eyes? He's not opening his eyes, so I'm going to apply a painful stimulus and see if that gets him to open his eyes, and he's opening his eyes there, so that's an E score of 2. And finally, we can also have a scenario where patients do not open their eyes at all. So, Andrew, can you open your eyes, please? Andrew, can you open your eyes, please? So I'm applying a painful stimulus and he's not opening his eyes, so that's an E score of 1. So we'll move on to the V component, which is the verbal component of GCS. That's graded between 1 to 5. So 5 means you are able to speak in sentences and you are orientated. So we can have a conversation with Andrew to assess his V score. Hi Andrew, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm feeling okay, thank you.
Very good. Can I ask you some silly questions? Do you know what day of the week it is today?
It's Friday.
Very good. And what month are we in?
In January.
And what year is it?
It's 2020.
Very good. And where are we at the moment?
We're in Salford Royal Hospital.
Very good. So that's just a general assessment of how oriented Andrew is. So he's oriented to time and place. That gives him a V score of 5. However, he could also be confused, which would give him a V score of 4. In which case, we'll ask him some questions. Andrew, do you know what day of the week it is today?
Sunday, Tuesday.
And what year are we in?
1983.
Okay, Andrew. It's actually 2020. So, right there, you can see that Andrew is confused. He's able to speak in sentences, but he's confused, so it gives him a V score of 4. We can also have a scenario where patients are only able to speak words, for example, if they have a speech impairment. So when I ask Andrew questions, he won't be able to form sentences but only say words. This can result from conditions like dysphasia. Hi Andrew. Andrew, can you tell me where you are at the moment?
Home.
Okay. Can you tell me your full address?
Salford. Manchester.
So Andrew there is saying words without forming sentences. That gives him a V score of 3. You can also have a scenario where patients they are not able to form words even, they're only able to mumble sounds, which indicates a even greater level of unconsciousness. So Andrew, can you tell me where you are at the moment?
No.
So he's mumbling sounds there, so it gives him, or rather producing just sounds, which gives him a V score of 2. And finally we can have a V score of 1, which means that the patient is not able to provide any verbal response whatsoever. So Andrew, how are you doing today? Can you hear me? Andrew? So Andrew there is not able to give me a verbal response. So we'll move on now to the motor component of the GCS. This is the most important component because it's the least affected by other factors other than neurological problems. So the score goes from 1 to 6, and again we'll start with 6, which means the patient is able to obey commands. And you can assess that in a number of ways. I can ask Andrew, for example, "Hi Andrew, can you stick your tongue out for me?" So he's able to stick his tongue out. Very good, you can put it back in your mouth now. That's an easy way of assessing whether they can obey commands. But obviously if you're an intubated patient, that might be difficult for them. And if they are off sedation, you can also ask them to squeeze your fingers and also let go as well, because obviously squeezing fingers can just be a primitive reflex, so it's important that the patient lets go as well, okay? So if the patient does not obey commands, then the motor score can be up to a 5, and at 5 it means they are able to localize to a painful stimulus. So what that means is that they will raise their limb above their clavicle towards a painful stimulus. And a painful stimulus can be usually a trapezius squeeze or pressing over the supra-orbital notch to deliver some pressure there as well. So, Andrew, can you stick your tongue out for me? Can you squeeze my fingers? Okay, he's not obeying commands, so I'm going to apply a painful stimulus now, trapezius squeeze. And he is localizing to my hand. That gives him a motor score of 5. Now, a motor score of 4 means that there is normal flexion, but the patient doesn't quite reach to the painful stimulus. It doesn't go above the clavicle. So that's the key-differentiating feature between localizing and normal flexion. So when I apply a trapezius squeeze here, Andrew was coming up, but he's not quite able to get to my hand. That indicates a motor score of 4. People can be even less responsive than this, and the motor score can be 3, which means abnormal flexion. Now, abnormal flexion used to be referred to as decortical posturing, and it's a very, it has a specific phenotype. So patients will typically tend to pronate their arms and flex their wrists and then flex towards the painful stimulus, and this may be symmetrical in this sort of a posture like this. So when I apply a painful stimulus to Andrew here, he is displaying abnormal flexion, this pronation and flexion of the wrists. So this is abnormal flexion. This gives a motor score of 3. Finally, you can have either a motor score of 2 or a motor score of 1. A motor score of 2 used to be called decerebrate posturing, but now it's just called extension. So again, if we position Andrew's arms in the mid position, which is the correct position to start off with, and I apply a painful stimulus, then he will tend to extend his arms. Finally, you can also have a motor score of 1, where when we apply a painful stimulus, Andrew does not display any motor response, and that is the Glasgow Coma scale. So now we'll talk about pronator drift, which indicates an upper motor neuron dysfunction. It's a type of subtle weakness. So the way to demonstrate this is to ask the patient to lift their arms up in the air as if they were holding a tray. So Andrew, can you lift your arms in the air for us, straight in front of you? Flip your palms to face the wall behind you as if you're holding a tray, and close your eyes for us. So at the moment, Andrew does not have a pronator drift because his arms are steady and there is no signs of pronation, which is twisting of the arm, and the drift element is the arm falling under gravity. But if Andrew did have some upper motor neuron dysfunction, then he would have pronation of the arm, and also the arm would tend to fall slightly below the level of the other arm, indicating a pronator drift on the left side in this case. Okay, thank you. Paul, you can lower your arms down, Andrew. So we're now going to talk about motor grading. So muscles, muscle power you can assess between 0 to 5. 0 means that there is no contraction of the muscle whatsoever. 5 means there is normal contraction against resistance. And then there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 in between. So a good way to assess muscle power You can assess at the patient's fingers to start off with, flexion. So Andrew, can you squeeze my fingers as hard as you can? Very good. And can you raise your arms like a boxer for me and push me away, pull me towards you, raise your arms by your side, push up for me, very good. So I'm applying some resistance there, and Andrew is able to move his arms against resistance. This indicates a motor score, muscle power score of 5 out of 5. Now Andrew could have some degree of weakness as well. So a score of 4 would mean that he is able to resist some but not all resistance. So he's able to move his arms against some resistance but not a lot of resistance. So for example, Andrew, can you lift your arms like a boxer for me and try and push me away? Okay, so there's some weakness here. Push me away on this side, so he's able to push me away much further on one side. So there's a muscle power grading of 4 out of 5 and elbow extension on the right side. Now, he can have even more weakness than this, which would be power, which means that he's able to move his limbs and carry out the movement, but not when there is resistance implemented. This would give him a score of 3. So for example, Andrew, can you straighten your right arm out for me? So he's extending his elbow. And can you put it back for me? And can you do it against my hand? So he's unable to extend his arm against resistance. This gives him a score of 3. On this side, if I ask him to do it, he's able to do it. That gives him a score of 5 on the other side. Now obviously here we have not eliminated gravity, so that's why he's able to get a score of 3 for his power. In certain circumstances, patients will be unable to move their limbs until gravity is eliminated, and that will give you a muscle score of 2. And in that case, the only movements that you will be able to elicit will be those that are done when gravity is eliminated. So in this case, Andrew won't be able to lift his arms up like this, but when I ask him to extend his arms and bend his arms, he will be able to in the horizontal plane when gravity is eliminated. So Andrew, can you try and straighten your arm out for me? Very good. And as soon as I implement any resistance, he's not able to do that. And can you try and lift your arms up like a boxer for me? So he's able to do it on that side, but not this side, and he's only able to straighten it when gravity is eliminated, giving him a elbow extension score of 2 out of 5. Patients can have even more weakness than this, where their muscles just give a flicker of contraction, and that is given a score of 1 out of 5. And it will be difficult to demonstrate in this case, but we will try. So Andrew, can you try and bend your right arm for us? So you can see there is a flicker of contraction but no movement of the limb, even when gravity is eliminated. That gives him a elbow flexion score of 1 out of 5. Now 0 out of 5 means there is no response, so when I ask Andrew to bend his right arm, I'm looking at the muscle group there. There is no response. That's a score of 0 out of 5. So again, your muscle power can be graded from 0 to 5. 0 means there is no contraction of the muscle. 5 means there's normal contraction against resistance and gravity. 4 means there is some contraction against some resistance. 3 means there is contraction against gravity, but not when resistance is applied. 2 means that there is contraction when gravity is eliminated. 1 means a flicker of contraction, and that's the motor grading for you. So assessing muscle power in the lower limbs has the same principles in terms of grading as the upper limbs, as I explained earlier. But I'm going to demonstrate how we do the motor assessment. We can divide the lower limb into 3 different parts in terms of the muscle groups. You've got the power of the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So I'll just demonstrate the power assessment. So Andrew, can you lift your right leg up for us and keep it in the air, stop pushing it down? Very good. It's 5 out of 5 power at hip flexion. Can you bend your right knee for me, Andrew? Thank you. Can you try and push my hand away? That's knee extension, 5 out of 5 power. Can you bend the knee again for me? Try and move your ankle towards your bottom for me. Very good. That's knee flexion. Can you move your ankle towards yourself for me? Very good. And stop and pushing it down. Very good. That's ankle dorsiflexion. And can you push down on my hand? Very good. Ankle plantar flexion. So Andrew's got 5 out of 5 power at his right hip, knee and ankle.
That concludes this educational video. We hope you found it useful.